Space Action Podcast! With your hosts, Chris Carson and DC and Shama.
Welcome to Space Action Podcast, a extension of Space Action Heroes, which you can find at spaceactionheroes.com. I am Chris Carson, and this week we're switching things up a little because, as DC mentioned a few podcasts ago, we actually do live about an hour and a half from each other, so it's not so easy every week for us to be able to get together to do a podcast. So this week I'm taking the reins to talk a little bit about the series, the sci-fi original series, Battlestar Galactica. Based on the original 1970s series of the same name. And with me this week is someone who just went through the entire Battlestar series for the first time.
Yeah.
Samantha Saxena, how are you doing?
Good. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
I've never done a podcast before, so this is quite exciting for me.
No, you gotta pretend like you do these all the time.
Oh, I do these all the time.
You're like a high-end producer somewhere.
Okay.
So yeah, you just went through Battlestar.
I did.
How long did it take you?
I think it took me 2 weeks to get through the entire thing.
It's not bad.
I really went at it like a pro. The first season I found was, 1 or 2 episodes a night, and it was usually good. As soon as we got into season 2 and 3, the whole story just lit up, and I was watching at least 4 to 5 episodes a night.
You got through it in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
So
Yeah.
just a little backstory on my viewing of Battlestar was that I just sort of peripherally heard of this show and kind of ignored it. And then there is anyone who watched it, and this is going to be full of spoilers, by the way. So anyone who hasn't seen it, which I'm not sure why you'd be listening to this if you haven't, but just know, Baltar's a Cylon. So yeah, there was a writer's strike in between the last season. So the first half of the last season aired, and then there was a writer's strike, and they didn't know if it was coming back or not. And that's when I watched the whole series during that break. And then I watched the final 10 episodes live. So that was fun. I think it is a better show to binge than to watch week to week.
I agree. I think if I was watching it week to week, it would have turned into the first little bit of The Walking Dead.
It just gets a little...
It was, yeah.
It's a little hard to follow.
It is. A
So,
lot of little intricacies, and there's a lot of characters, and...
I think recap videos were big for Battlestar. Because people were just like, oh, right, what the hell happened? There's
like Game of Thrones.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like people would throw up on YouTube, like, this week, blah, blah, blah. Like the Emergency Awesome, or whatever those horrible sites are.
So at the beginning of each of the episodes, they do that little recap,
Previously
right?
on
Yes.
Battlestar Galactica.
But when you're binging it, it is quite horrible to have to watch what you just watched 2 seconds ago.
And I would always close my eyes when the drums hit because they'd show scenes for that week. I watched one episode with you, and I mentioned that, like, close your eyes during the drum beats. And in that promo show, it was the one where Ty reveals he's a Cylon to Adama. And in that little, like, drum beat intro flash forward to scenes through the episode, you see Lee just punching Saul right in the face. So that's like, oh, well, obviously he's going to find out he's a Cylon in this moment. Why would you put that in there? But,
yeah, that makes no rhime or reason to give away the best parts of the show.
It's like the
before
trailer
show.
before the trailer now.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, it's
now
true.
watch this trailer for Venom. Yeah, here's the trailer. So what'd you think of the ending? Jumping ahead to the ending. We'll jump all over the place.
Jump.
But, because that ending divided a lot of people.
I actually really like the way the series ended. I do. It didn't leave me wanting more. It was a good kind of conclusion to the saga that had been, questing through space for,
So you like the
5
whole-
years or whatever?
The whole landing 150,000 years in the past.
I did.
And then that poor little Cylon girl died at like 19 because she was mitochondrial Eve.
Yeah.
How old is she? Was even younger than that, I think, mitochondrial Eve.
Oh, was she?
I think the body was like 16 or 17, so you're like, oh, that little girl I guess they shouldn't have flushed the medicine down the toilet with everything else.
Yeah, well, this is true. And in real life, if that was to happen to us today, right now, I don't think I could have lived without the medicine. But I liked how they kind of rolled it all into this has all happened before and it's going to happen again, and the cyclical nature of the show.
Let's break it down. So, because I broke it down for you, but I was a little foggy, and I got it a little wrong.
Yeah, it's super confusing.
I did some Googling. And so essentially, it's for the 100 or so people that listen, please comment and correct me if I'm wrong. Kobol was a planet of people.
Correct, yeah.
Who made Cylons. There was a Cylon war. The planet was destroyed. A group of human colonists went out and formed the 12 colonies. A group of Cylon colonists went out and formed Earth. And then on Earth, the exact same thing happened again. The Cylons made their own Cylons, created war. But then 5 people had invented this, like, live forever machine called Resurrection. Mm-hmm. So when that world was completely destroyed, their 5 consciousnesses uploaded, they woke up and went, oh shit, we need to find the other colonies to warn them not to do this again.
Right.
They flew to the 12 colonies, found that they were already in the middle of a Cylon war. They stopped it, took the Cylons away, gave them resurrection, built the skin jobs, built the
android type guys.
Or the ones that always go, jump! In their little...
Yeah. Oh, the hybrids,
blue.
Sorry.
Yeah, the hybrids.
Yeah.
And then the first one they made, which is very much like Satan to the god of the final 5, revolted against them, wiped their memories, stuck them in the 12 colonies so they could learn what pieces of crap these people are.
Yep.
And then invaded, and then that's where the show starts.
And I have to tell your listeners that it's a lot less confusing when you draw it out.
If you draw a little illustration.
Exactly.
A little cobalt, and then nuclear explosions, and then lines.
Yeah, you just scratch out the ones that are dead at this point.
Dead.
It makes a lot more sense.
And so the final 5 were Saul Ty.
Yes.
Ellen Ty.
Yeah.
Chief Fatty.
I love Chief Fatty.
What's his name? Chief...
Galen.
Galen, who went off to
Chief.
become...
Scotland.
And, so who else is there?
And then Sam.
Sam gets shot in the head.
And that's 5.
And that's the 5.
Yeah. Oh, no, the brown chick. Who is the brown chick?
Tanya?
Tanya.
No, who did Rosalind... Now we're sounding like idiots. We just watched this. The brown chick! The
token brown chick.
She replaced the Billy.
Who was the other presidential aide.
And Rosalind kept saying her name constantly.
I feel like it was Tanya or Tina or...
Something. I always say Callie, but Callie's the one she brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Which then caused Chief to strangle the shit out of her at the very final episode. Oh.
Can we call her Tanya going forward?
I'm sure Tanya.
Okay.
I know it's not, but she's kind of a Tanya.
Yeah.
Or a Tina.
Yeah. She's got the hair of a Tina, I think.
Something. She's something.
And the nose of a... I think she's got the nose of Tanya, yo.
Hey, I'm going to point out to our listeners that this isn't a really racist podcast, because Sam is in fact Indian, so she could say...
I am, I swear.
Whatever the fuck she wants about Tina's nose.
If she is in fact East Indian, if she's West Indian, then I apologize.
It's all the same. It's like the difference between Scottish and Irish. And if you're listening out there and getting angry by that, you're probably Irish.
Okay, so let's
go through it season by season. So season 1 is so the show started as a miniseries, a one-off miniseries that they produced. That's why it's such a bitch to get into that show, because it's like, no, get through this 3 hours of exposition, and I swear it's great, because the second episode is arguably one of the best of the whole series, which is where they have to jump every, 33 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're all sleep-deprived and horrified.
And when I first started watching, I started on that second
so
episode.
You didn't know what the hell was going on.
I had no idea. But I was kind of just like, what? And then you were the one that told me you have to go through
there's a 3-hour pilot.
This movie before you can watch the TV show.
Which is so, because it was like a year or so between the pilot and then the production of the series, once they knew they had an audience and blah, blah, blah. So everything's a little bit different.
Because I take it the 70s Battlestar wasn't as well received as the more recent Battlestar?
I don't know, because it was big enough that it stayed in the public awareness to the point that they could even make a reboot. I think there is a hardcore fan base to the original Battlestar, and I honestly don't get it.
That's Seems rude.
I don't get it. Like, I've tried, 'cause especially with watching the new series, I was like, oh, I'm gonna, because I remember seeing some of these episodes when I was a kid, and I just was confused, and like, I'm just gonna go watch Star Wars, thanks. Because the original Battlestar was made because of Star Wars. It was everyone was looking for their Star Wars. So Paramount made Star Trek, and then whatever network they were on, like CBS or ABC, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We're like, well, let's unearth something, and it was like a Mormon dude. So like a lot of the religious connotations from the new series come just out of the fact that a Mormon dude wrote the original and put in like little Mormon things, peppered it in.
Okay.
And I believe Baltar was just like a scumbag spy for the Cylons. There was none of the politics, none of the.
And I gotta say, going back to this more recent series, I really enjoyed the play with the politics and the religion as well. I'm not a religious person at all.
Oh yeah, me either. But I love that. Again, spoilers for an old series. I'm not even sure it's an anniversary or anything we can claim to be doing this for. It came out 7 or so years ago.
Happy 7th anniversary!
Woo! I'm not sure what year it ended, but yeah, no, I'm not either. But I love the fact that it's just God. God is a force of nature.
Exactly.
And I love that they really play it up, because as soon as the scene happens where Baltar basically says, it's God, it's a force of nature, there's no good, there's no evil, we cut to a dead Raptor pilot, and a meteor just bunks her hand into missiles that then blow up the Cylon base.
Yeah.
Which at any other moment you'd be like, what the fuck? Where you're like, oh no, God. Got it.
Yeah.
It's God working in its mysterious ways.
Well, even as they were at the beginning, and maybe this was season 1, season 2, they were just blindly following this prophecy.
Of Earth?
Of Earth, yeah.
Because I remember then
Adama
said it was a lie.
Exactly.
But he needed something to keep.
And there was a note in the locker saying there's only 12 colonies.
Or was it the note in the locker that said there are 12 models of the Cylon, 12 Cylon models in the fleet?
Maybe I'm getting confused. Sorry. Edit that part out, please.
That's the rawness of this podcast. It's staying in. But yeah, I wonder if they knew at the beginning. This is something we probably should have researched before doing a podcast about it. But I wonder if they knew who the final 5 were going to be right off the bat, or if they sort of worked that out as the show went on. I honestly don't know.
I remember reading the description, so I was streaming it, and on my streaming service, they
No, Sam, streaming is illegal. You purchased this.
I purchased this.
And watched it on wonderful DVD and or Blu-ray.
I did. And on the back of the DVD, they had these little captions.
For each one, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the caption for when the final 5 are revealed said that 5 main cast members or characters or
for that
crew
episode.
members of Battlestar are revealed as the final 5 Cylons. But I didn't think that the final 5 were actually big players.
Oh, you didn't think they were going to be actual cast members? You thought they were just going to be some other people that show up, some new people that show up?
Not necessarily, but I thought there was more important people that could have been the Cylons.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Like Adama or Baltar or something?
Or, yeah, Baltar for sure. How do you not see Baltar being a bloody Cylon, right?
I gotta use that as a transition into my experience playing the Battlestar Galactica board game.
Okay.
Which I told you about, which is amazing. I was invited years ago when the show first ended. I was invited to a board game session to play the Battlestar Galactica tabletop game. Nerd! And it's incredibly complex. If you were asking me to play it now, I would have no idea. I just relied on the kindness of other players to teach me as I went. But in the game, you draw a card, and that's the character you are. So Adama, Rosalind, Baltar, whatever. You draw if you're a Cylon or not, and no one knows. Everyone knows who everyone's character is, but no one knows who's a Cylon. Mm-hmm. So I was Baltar, and I wasn't a Cylon, but I insisted that we roleplay and play as the characters that we drew. So how the game works is that every certain amount of turns the Cylons attack. So in between those attacks, you have to build your fleet, build your resources, jump around the galaxy, try and evade them, but they're always coming for you. And so as Baltar, everything was in chaos, and I was almost out of money, and the Cylons were attacking the next turn, so I played a call an election card. They rolled the dice, and I won. And so Baltar was now president of the colonies, and I completely fucked it up for everybody. And so then everyone thought, oh, you're a Cylon. Everyone played their turn to call me out as a Cylon. It's no, I'm just Baltar. That's exactly what Baltar would do. He would call an election right as an attack is happening. And I really fucked the game up for everyone, but I really enjoyed it.
That was season 2. That was all of season 2.
That was season 2.
Season 3.
Yeah. Was it 2 when he became... Again, I binged it like when it came out, so I'm a little foggy on the details.
And I think I've watched everything so close together that seasons mean nothing to
all
me at this
melds
point.
into one.
Yeah. It's one great story.
So yeah, the original 70s series, I don't understand at all. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. And Lee and Starbuck are just the most annoying characters. And again, I've only seen...
for Starbuck, it's the hair that's the most horrible
the 70s
part.
douche hair that he had.
He's almost got like a... What is it? Like the He-Man haircut?
Or feather. His hair is feathered.
Very
very feathered.
Okay.
I think. Again, any stylists out there want to correct me. But, no, I only watched a handful of episodes, and I just didn't get it. I thought it was stupid. I thought the Cylons looked stupid. And this is someone who's a fan of, like, Daleks and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but these Cylons look fucking stupid.
Yeah. And I didn't watch the entire 70s series, so I didn't get the character development, which I got with
I don't know if there was a lot. I think it was more of a weekly adventure. Like this week, they're going on this adventure.
Yeah, that's suspect of every single older show I've seen in my life, is that they didn't focus on the character development at all.
No.
That seems to be a really modern thing, right?
Yeah, the whole streaming world of Netflix and Yahoo and all those are being able to create one... Like HBO technically was the forerunner on it all. Mm-hmm. We'll do 10 episodes, but it's one big story.
Yeah.
And it really, really caught on. And that's the world now. That's what's fucked up Star Trek. It's like, no, Star Trek works as a standalone thing. Star Trek Discovery is one big story about violent, vicious assholes. It's, what the hell?
Well, weren't you telling me that Battlestar was a lot like your Star Trek?
How so?
I guess the story and how kind of the story... No?
I don't know. I only watched a handful of episodes, and every episode was something ridiculous. Okay. Because they were trying to do Star Wars on TV. Battlestar was very much like... It's like the backstory is that we're on the run from the Cylons, but this week we're going to go down to an alien planet and find like a furry midget thing that will like infest the ship, and it's a one-off or whatever.
Wait, did you say Cylons? Okay, you're talking about Battlestar.
The 70s Battlestar.
Oh, the 70s. Okay, gotcha. We're on the same page once again.
And it eventually they find Earth and it's modern times, and then the next one's called like Battlestar 1980 or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it's them all living among, because the budget was slashed, the viewership was going down, so it was just the characters hanging out in contemporary Earth.
I think we watched a little bit of an episode of that, didn't we?
Yeah, that one is just god-awful. Yeah. Again, to anyone who really loves Battlestar, the original series, I apologize. But then you're also the assholes who were complaining that Starbuck was a woman. So, fuck you. I mean, come on, it's Battlestar Galactica.
So let's talk about Starbuck a sec. Because
the new Starbuck
the
or
new
the old Starbuck?
Because I was obviously a little bit confused with what was happening with her
She's an
overarching
angel.
character. What the fuck was that?
She was an angel.
What did you need an angel for?
Well, I guess with the whole religious overtones of the whole series, they wanted someone to be sort of guiding them. I imagine if we were more familiar with like old Christian scripture, it would make more sense to us.
Because she was supposed to be the harbinger of death.
So she was the angel of death and rebirth, I guess.
Death and rebirth?
I mean, they're the same in tarot cards. Maybe they're the same in old Christian prophecies or Jewish Bibles. I don't know. Because it was a little confusing because Baltar was seeing an angel in his head. Chesty Six was seeing Baltar angel in her head.
Yeah.
And so those were angels. We found it in the last episode, like, oh, they're just angels sticking around. And it was very weird seeing them talk to each other.
Yeah, it was.
The angel Baltar and Angel Six. You're like, oh, they're both so cocky and weird. But and then Starbuck was like something else. She was also an angel, but not really.
And they didn't really develop that story at all.
They kept
it was just all of a sudden they're staying on Earth. Her and
she says
Lee.
her journey is done. Her task is over.
Yeah, and she just disappears.
God tasked her with something.
Yeah.
So I'm again, like, we're not like well versed in religious mythology. So I don't know if there's tiers of aliens. I don't know if there's tiers of angels. I don't know if there's like guidance angels and like angels that, you know, cheat on guys with their brothers, a la Starbuck.
But then Starbuck had that whole backstory of her mother and dying of cancer, and she never talked to her because she was a crazy bitch. And
so was that installing memories in her, or is that like was she
Cylon type installing memories? See, it's kind of weird.
Was she born as an angel? But I do like that they didn't just spell it out for us, because then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe like a soul. It's like Twin Peaks. the new Twin Peaks revival, where like the soul of a thing was dropped down to Earth, and that birthed Starbuck. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Twin Peaks is something we got to watch. Twin Peaks and do
Okay.
a Twin Peaks podcast. It's so amazing.
Well, let's do a little bit of research before we do that podcast.
Not just blathering on. It's like, there's like Bob's there. I don't know. He's a demon or something.
But, you know, I wish I wanted to see more of what was happening with Starbuck, because I thought she was going to be one of the ones that were Cylons, because she was such an instrumental character.
And then she literally saw her ship blow up, and then she comes back.
Yeah.
And then we saw her ship blow up in like cheesy computer animated explosion, but then it was in pretty good shape when they found it crashed on Earth with a skeleton inside.
Exactly.
So that was a little odd.
Yeah.
But Starbuck's a little unclear, and I imagine like if we did a Google, and usually we have a computer set up so we can catch, we can pause it and sound more informed. But I imagine there's probably debate on exactly what Starbuck was, because even you binged it, there was never a direct.
There wasn't at all. And that was one of the characters that I think they could have done a little bit more with. She kind of turned into the bad girl, kind of bad attitude.
She was kind of a monster.
She kind of was. Yeah.
For an
just
angel.
Just fucking everyone.
That's why I thought she's the angel of sex. But you didn't really like Adama too much, did you?
So Adama was like, I get how he was the father figure, but...
He's like a Republican father figure.
Yes.
But one of the good ones.
But
like an 80s Reagan Republican. Not a modern psychopath fuck-up Republican.
So the fellow who played him, I think close to the
Edward
end...
James Olmos.
And mad
From Blade
respect for
Runner.
him, because he was in Battlestar, and I completely enjoyed the show. But a little bit of an overactor.
He overacted the most in episodes he directed.
Oh, dear Lord.
Because no one was reining him in.
When Saul told him that he was a Cylon, my God.
No, the best one of them all, I would have to argue, is when he's painting the wall of the battle. Because that's an episode he directed. So he walks in, I think it's when they're starting to decommission the ship, maybe, and then he walks in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And he sees the paint on the ground, and he starts painting, and then he's like
Like
throwing
a madman?
paint, and then he like falls against it, crucifixed, with his arms out, and it's like, you directed this, James.
Oh God!
So no one was there to go, maybe down, just a notch, just a little bit. I don't know.
It was funny.
Try it one more time.
But I agree. He was definitely the the Republican, and you could tell that all the characters had a certain affinity towards him. He was like the father
old
figure
man
and all that. Yeah.
I love when
Yeah.
Wait, what's I literally just said it again. I haven't got much sleep last night, so I apologize to everyone listening that I'm really brain dead. Saul's wife is Ellen.
Ellen,
yeah. Even the final episode when Ellen's like, why do you call him the old man? You're older than him. Like, this is someone worth following. Saul Ty, I loathed when I first started watching it.
Really?
I was like, why is this redneck Canadian asshole?
I loved it. I think because of his East Coast accent.
He was too East Coast. It took it out of me. I guess it would be like how every fantasy movie people speak with an English accent. Uh-huh. So English people are going, wait, this doesn't seem very fantastical to me. It just sounds like my accent. So when I hear like this, because I have a bit of a Canadian accent myself.
But you don't have that East Coast accent.
No.
And I find something very
but I'm familiar with
genuine about it.
It just distracted me. I was like,
it?
oh, it's just some Canadian dude they hired in Vancouver. What the fuck? But then his character was so amazing that by the end of the series, I'm like, nah, Saul's probably my favorite character.
You're such a little self-hater.
He's
my
so
God.
great. It's just the voice. It's just...
I really enjoyed Saul's voice, and I think it's because,
Like, I don't want to offend anyone out there, but it's the Canadian equivalent of, like, the Alabama accent. So it'd be so weird if the first officer of a starship was like, well, we got to get on here and get our saddle up on this horse here and get out of the star system. Be like, wait, that's so weird. Why does he sound like that?
To the fellow who played Saul, I love your accent. I'm sorry I don't know what your name is, but...
Shoot, this is again where our laptop would come in handy, but I don't know
if I ever see you walking down the street, I will go up to you and shake your hand, and hopefully you will say a kind word to me.
Frack off, frack, bitch.
Frack! I loved Frack.
I loved Frack until the unrated miniseries that they did, where there was like dicks and boobs, and you're like, why are they not saying fuck if there's boobs and dicks in the show now?
What show was that?
That was in The Plan, in the locker room.
Oh, The Plan. Right. So that was like a halfway point point kind of...
The plan came out
Movie
after
thing, right?
after the series. The halfway
was
point
right
movie
after.
was
Okay.
Razor, which was the story of Pegasus.
Yes.
And then, oh shoot, I shouldn't do that. That's probably showing up quite badly. Was Pegasus. And then after the show ended, they did The Plan, which
Right.
was all green screen with computer rendered interiors of the Galactica and stuff. So it
So-
looked really weird.
The interesting part about The Plan, though, is that it's the exact same story as, like, the first, 2 or 3 seasons of Battlestar?
It doesn't take it all the way to the end, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it's from the first Skin Job's point of view, right?
Cavill.
Cavill was his name.
Al from
Yeah,
Quantum
from Quantum
Leap.
Leap.
Did they have an episode where Scott Bakula showed up? Because in Enterprise, which Scott
No.
Bakula was the captain on
Yeah.
Enterprise, Al showed up in an episode.
Really?
So it would have been nice if they'd flipped it.
So I didn't see Scott Bakula, but I did remember this one part right at the end of the series. So it would have been in season 4 when Al, who is Cavill, actually says the name Sam. And I think that's the first time I heard him say the name Sam.
Oh,
To Sam Beckett, right?
Right.
So it was kind of my
Dr. Sam
shout
Beckett.
out.
Sam! Sam!
Yeah.
He didn't need Ziggy to show up.
Because Sam was one of the final 5 Cylons.
There
right?
should have been one episode where Adama's acting really weird, and then all of a sudden Sam leaps out of his body and has fixed the day on Battlestar. Fix some battle. And then the spin-off series, because again, Game of Thrones is about to make the same mistake, which will date this podcast, or has made the same mistake if you're listening to it in the future. Where the Game of Thrones is ending after like 8 years of just fucking getting through the series. And then the year after, the prequel series comes out. And Battlestar did the exact same thing with Caprica, and Caprica was just atrocious.
So I didn't even try to watch Caprica. But,
Caprica-
talking about the prequel, I think the prequel has a very bad name today because of Star Wars. and
Prequels don't generally do well.
15 million other things.
Temple of Doom was technically a prequel.
But I'd like to remain optimistic. I would.
On prequels?
On
think...
the Game of Thrones prequels.
Oh, I'm already sick of Game of Thrones. That's a whole other podcast. Game of Thrones went from being, in my humble opinion, Game of Thrones went from being this bizarre, not afraid to take chances and be edgy counterculture show to so popular that they started listening to people who complained about things in the show.
Right.
And so now it feels like I've watched many an hour of All My Children in General Hospital.
I bet you have.
With my mother.
I like how you added that in.
Yeah,
Good,
no,
good.
yeah, 100%. When she was sick, and I would watch stuff with her, and Game of Thrones has become very much structured like a soap opera.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was
It
structured
totally
like
is.
this bizarre, like, and it's a bizarre like twist. Again, just completely responding to audience criticism. That it went from being this fantasy show about a medieval world that's brutal and violent and horrible to a girl power show, which is really weird. That
Well,
they've
and that's
taken
just
that
because
twist.
they've killed Littlefinger, right? And I think that's happened just recently.
But that's the thing. If they had just done, like, if it had been this brutal, violent world, all the men have killed themselves, so all that are left are the women.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. But they did that, plus they beat you over the head with it. Literally, in one of the episodes, Khaleesi has a red priestess come in, and it's like maybe they misread the prophecy, and it's not man, but woman who is powerful, and they look at the camera and wink, and they go, "Now tweet at us, assholes." So it's like, yeah, I'm all for that concept, but be subtle about it. Have a little grace with your storytelling. Can you imagine if Alien had ended with Ripley going, "It's a man's world that created this beast, and only a woman could have stopped a xenomorph. This is Ellen Ripley signing off." You're like, "Oh, fuck you. We got it without that." But that's my problem with Game of Thrones. That's a problem with Game of Thrones. I have quite a few with it these days.
That aside, I am still optimistic about the prequels for Game of Thrones,
That's
even though
gonna
I
be-
know that Martin is not writing any of it.
Does he have anything to... Because they've
I know
really
he's
blacklisted
completely-
him.
Yeah, they took his baby, they raped it, and he's just kind of been left off to the side.
Yeah. And
But I'm optimistic that there's still things that they can do.
what's when do you think it's going to be set? Is it going to be set like... Is it going to just be the first series again, where it's the
I think-
first long winter?
I think it's maybe.
You think they're just going to do that again? The
Well,
story
I
of
thought
this
that they were-
again, but with different characters.
I would think that they would look at the that first war that put
The wall up.
the wall up. Is that what they're doing?
I don't know.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no real word on it yet. We just know it's a prequel series. I think.
Well, what was Joffrey's dad's name again?
The Mad King. You think they're gonna do?
Not the Mad King. Well, dethroning
Well,
the Mad
Joffrey's
King.
dad was.
Bathair.
You're talking about the Mad King, or I'm sorry,
No.
not the. What
Ned's
Joffrey?
buddy who put
Joffrey's father, his actual father, wasn't the king.
No, but his play father, right? The one who was king. That was Baratheon.
Baratheon.
Thank you. I'm Indian. I don't know English words.
You're Canadian. That's no excuse. I'm Irish, Scottish, Italian mutt. I don't know English words.
But I thought there was going to be kind of what was leading up to him actually sitting on the crown. But maybe not.
Maybe. Oh, okay. Maybe the Robert's Rebellion.
Robert's Rebellion. Robert. That's what I was looking for.
See, that always
Yeah.
feels like it'd be too. That would go into Caprica territory, and I swear this is a Battlestar podcast.
Yeah.
That would go into Caprica territory where it's too soon, too close to the original series.
Because Caprica was how far away from
Caprica
Battlestar?
was the first Cylon War, so Adama would have been like a teenager, and so it was like 30, 40 years before. And it's set on a world that is almost one-for-one contemporary Earth. Actually, let's get into a little bit of what Caprica was, because it was horrible. And I didn't watch the whole season. I couldn't do it anymore. I gave up like I gave up on The Walking Dead. But it was basically in a world that's almost exactly like ours, but it's the 12 colonies. And there's a virtual world, almost like Ready Player One, the Oasis, where everyone goes and everyone lives in the virtual world. And then this programmer, Eric Stoltz, the original Marty McFly, his daughter dies, but her consciousness is in the virtual world. So he wants to build a body for her to be able to bring her consciousnness back.
Hence the Cylons.
And that's what triggers the Cylons' like self-awareness. That's how they...
So then were all the Cylons this one little girl?
The series... I didn't watch the last few episodes because I didn't care, and then they canceled it.
Because that's kind of creepy.
So I'm not sure. I think the idea was that the girl's consciousness is what triggered the ability for them all to achieve self-awareness, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So it's sort of like that first person who sees something and then everyone else can acknowledge it.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
So were the Cylons meant to have... And I mean, from, the one that you're talking about, or if we're actually talking about Battlestar, did they all have their own personal... kind of...
Like, you mean the robots and the ships? Well,
Yeah.
I think that was implied
Was there a Bob
with,
and a Jim
with the
Cylon?
episode Scar. I think that's implied. Because remember that one episode where the one Cylon fighter had a scar down its face? Mm-hmm. And it was super aggressive, and they kept referring to it like a wild animal. Like an animal with rabies.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And so he was an asshole, or it was an asshole. So I guess the implication there is that they do. But we don't really see much of the... What are they called? The Centurions.
Yeah.
We don't really see much of the Centurions interact. We never see them sitting around playing poker.
No, true.
By our command, full house. So I don't know. They never really went into how much they can think. But then there was the episode that you were telling me about where the one character, I don't remember who you said it was, one of the Cylon Final Fives. Or maybe it was Ellen, or maybe it was a boomer or something.
Oh, it was the 6.
The 6 took
Yeah.
out their cognitive processor.
Yeah, took it out or put it in. I don't remember what it was.
Because Cavill was like snipping their ability to be more than just an animal.
lobotomizing the planes,
So that-
and the 6s didn't like it, so they either put in or took out some kind of cognitive something.
Chip or something.
Yeah.
So I imagine that implies that they were probably sitting around playing poker on their spare time.
And then the Centurions did turn against Cavill and the other guy, skin jobs, right?
Right, okay.
So,
And as an aside note, we're all over the map with this one. But as an aside note, I loved the use of the original Battlestar theme as the 12 Colonies national anthem. That's something that like a music nerd who can't play a single instrument but loves score music I was quite giddy when in the first episode when the flyover happens and they're playing the dun 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 dun. I was like, that's neat. Original Battlestar theme. But I like the end a lot. I think maybe it was a little overkill that it flashed forward to 2010 or whatever year it came out.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's such a great shot of Adama's on his mountain, Zeus is on his mountain,
Yep.
Rosalind's dead, the camera pulls out and it cuts to black, and you're like,
Yeah.
time to... Oh, there's more.
But it was a nice little conclusion to show
epilogue.
that the Battlestar crew, although, only, what was the kid's name again?
The little girl, the
Boomer's,
Athena's
kid.
daughter. I don't
Yeah.
remember. But she's the only one who's...
Hera.
She's
Hera
the
was
only
it.
one whose children survived.
Right, but something from that Battlestar survived into kind of modern day. And then I thought it went in very nicely with the two angels, which were Six and Baltar.
Seeing them interact was strange, though.
And looking, yeah, it totally was. But seeing them look at, that modern day, quote unquote, robots in like the shop windows and stuff, and saying, will it happen again?
I don't think it will. It
was-
doesn't like it when you call it that. Yeah. That whole business. I like that she says, I don't think it will, and then it cuts to a montage of robots.
Yeah. Those are creepy robots. Didn't that spawn a little Googling on our part?
Yes. As a side note, we were looking up real dolls, but not just real dolls. Those sex dolls. For those of you who don't know who real doll is, it's if you've ever seen a dog humping a stuffed dog, it's just that, but for people.
And they're robots.
But now, now they have ones that they've actually put. It's not just mechanics to make them move. They've put AI processors in them.
Yeah.
So there was remember the one robot, the girl who was doing the web video was talking to it and trying to get it to fuck her.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, I'm more than just that." Like, the last thing you want to put an awareness in is a fuckbot.
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah, I agree. But the scary part is that the majority of the ones that we saw, and granted it wasn't that random interview from some lady who was interviewing a sex bot.
She had like a sex show, and that
yeah.
episode was the sex bots.
But most of the bots that we saw, they all look like anime characters, which freaked me the fuck out.
I think, honestly, and I hope this isn't taken the wrong way, but I do believe, statistically, the majority of the sales are in China and Japan. So
Which is understandable,
Then
but they
there's
look like
way
a cartoon
more.
character.
Yeah.
So you're essentially fucking Daffy Duck.
Oh, the creepiest ones are the ones that are made to look like little kids.
Oh, that's not a real thing.
Yeah, that is a real thing. But that's a conversation to have that people have been having where it's like, is that a deterrent? Or is that going to make them want the real thing more?
Oh, see, I think you blur the lines with that way too much.
That one's, it's too much of a gray area because I think for some it would be like, well, I don't need to go out right, but now I got this thing. But I think for a whole other side, it's going to just be like...
And there's the whole idea around consent, and those are very murky waters.
The consent one's a big one too, because now some of these AI fuckbots have been programmed to not want it at first, and you have to convince them.
Oh, dear Lord.
You have to warm them up, so to speak. And so people are like, what lessons is this teaching people? That it's like, well, if a girl says no, you just have to warm her up a little. It's like, shouldn't you...
Oh, God.
I think,
this is right in line with Doug Ford's sex ed...
sex ed curriculum?
You should have a chat with him about...
Every time I yell about Ford or Trump, I'm worried we're going to lose half the audience.
I apologize, folks.
No, fuck you, don't listen. Honestly, come on, guys. Come on.
Dougie's keeping it real up here in Toronto.
Come on.
Oh, Lord.
But, yeah, so there were a lot more politics were added to the reboot series. A lot more religion. A lot more the grittiness of what the last 40, 50,000 people would actually be going through.
And you know what I really liked? At the beginning of the show, they had a count. So the survivor count.
Yeah.
And you could see,
dropped.
it would keep on dropping and dropping and dropping. And then, when Pegasus came, it went up a bit.
But then when New Caprica happened, it was like, boom! And
down
then
in half.
20,000 people.
Yeah.
It was insanity.
It was cool to see. I kept, when I noticed that the numbers were there and they were going up and down,
just kind of kept a tally of it.
Yeah. Just like Rosalind was.
And then for those of you who don't know, which again you probably do, Ronald D. Moore, the creator of Battlestar, was a Star Trek guy. He worked on Deep Space Nine and some Star Trek The Next Generation. He was always frustrated with the Roddenberry rule of no conflict among people. If you wanted conflict, you had to have aliens because the whole point was that people, we figured our shit out, we got along, which I think is great. I think any writer worth their salt, is that a term? It is now.
Yeah, I think it is.
Should know how to be able to write around that. It's a stipulation that I think would breed creativity. But then again, after 400 or 500 episodes, you kind of run on empty. But he left frustrated with Star Trek and went and made Battlestar Galactica. So the big useless pleasure ship is Registry 1701, just as a little fuck you to Star Trek, and I think they blow it up. Doesn't
Yeah,
Baltar?
they do.
Baltar
Yeah.
sends a nuke there, doesn't he?
One of the Sixes actually blows it up.
With Baltar's help.
Yeah,
I
he sends
remember-
her the nuke.
Yeah, because his angel is telling him to.
Yep.
For some
Yep.
bizarre reason, God's weird plan.
But it was Adama who gave Baltar the nuke to begin with. So
Oh yeah,
who's
why
really
did he do that again?
Because Baltar said he needed to make the Cylon finding machine.
Right, the Cylon detector, which
The
was always kind of a
plutonium
lie.
inside of the nuke,
Right,
which
right.
he never used. But yeah, I think it was you that was telling me that the Battlestar actually didn't buff out any of the dents that it got.
Oh yeah, it
from-
proudly wore every scar for
Yeah.
the whole series, and that
Yeah.
again, that was because of Star Trek, because he was always frustrated that he'd write an episode where action would happen, and then in the next week, the characters would be
Brand new.
reset, the ship would be reset.
Yeah.
So by that final episode, like in the very first episode, the Cylons hit Battlestar with a nuke. That burn is there through the whole series, and so by the last episode, it's just. It has more pockmarks than Adama's face by the end of it. Edward James Olmos, we love you. It was kind of weird seeing you in Blade Runner 2049. I'm not going to lie. Maybe you should have said no to that cameo. But overall...
And orthodontics for that bottom set of teeth.
Because his top teeth were beautiful white...
Because they were horse teeth.
Yeah,
They were essentially dentures,
and
right?
dentures, and then his bottom teeth were the yellow stained, old Mexican man smoking cigars his whole life.
Well, they were like all twisted and
They're all
turned.
twisted
like,
in.
Yeah.
And his big fake. Well, that's what my teeth
And
are gonna
when
look like someday.
when he overacted and he got really, really sad when the whole Saul thing happened, when Saul kind of came out to him, his mouth would be wide open, and all I could look at was that
Giant
bottom set of teeth.
Oh yeah, and him drooling all over Lee's hand.
Oh God. I hated Lee.
Lee was the worst. Yeah,
He was such a bad character.
But then I believe his name is Jamie Bamber, and he's an English guy, like proper English dude. And so when you see him in interviews and stuff, is what made me go, oh, he's awesome. Like the guy is awesome.
Okay.
But he's playing a douchebag that I hate, which is so much more fun than playing someone that the audience loves, right? It's more
I felt
fun.
like I didn't like him because he was the boss's kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he was
kind of
such a
got
little
all that
shit.
privilege for no reason, really.
But he's such like a laid back English dude, and you're like, oh, it wasn't you. You were playing him as a snotty little shithead.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
makes me hate and love your character more.
No, I still hate the character.
Oh, I hate him.
Yeah.
But then I love, like, I prefer characters that I hate over ones that I love, because it's way more of a challenge to play that than it is to play just the rum-ti-tum hero, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I always love to hate a character. Anytime I really hate a character, I really appreciate that someone was able to bring that emotion out in me. And I hated him differently after I saw him in real life. Like,
Okay.
saw him in an interview. Because I suddenly realized, oh, you're not just a snotty American asshole. You're actually playing a snotty
American asshole.
Makes me hate your character still, but appreciate you more. But has anyone really gone on to anything since then?
I didn't know anybody but Adama.
'Cause
I
he's
knew
from-
Adama's face.
What's he
I
in
didn't know
other
anyone
than,
else.
like, I just know Adama from Blade Runner fame.
I think I've seen him on random TV made-for-movie type things.
Because Edward James
on
almost is a
the
famous
Hallmark
dude.
Channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just never really known him.
No. Yeah.
Other than Blade Runner, as the guy who makes the origami unicorn. But other than that, I don't know. And then Starbuck went on to be on that Longmire Netflix series.
Again, don't know what that is.
Never seen it. It seems like a cowboy, rough and tumble kind of thing. And that's it. I don't know anyone else, which is a shame because Baltar is an amazing actor. I really wish that he would be able to go on and do more shit because he's great.
I enjoyed it all. I enjoyed it. Yep, I said that.
Enjoyed it.
Yep, I enjoyed all the screen time that Baltar got. Every single scene he was in, it was I liked it.
Everyone, you're going to hear me just rattling my cigarettes around there, guys. I apologize. But do you have the lighter?
I do.
Oh, thank you.
Is that something you should be talking about on the podcast? Should you not mime that to me?
What, having a cigarette?
No, like where's the lighter? Like to do like the
Oh.
flicky thing?
Yeah,
No.
we're in a closed off room right now, and I am sweating like a pig in heat. So I've lost all, and I'm on like 2 hours of sleep. So I've lost all credibility as like a source of information at this point. So excuse me. But as I was saying, what the hell was I saying?
Oh, should we rewind?
Something about something.
Baltar.
Baltar. Oh, Baltar is the only character that has a very adventurous arc, because he goes from being just a guy wanting to get laid,
Yeah.
and thinking he's selling industrial secrets to another company very innocently.
Okay.
And
Very
then-
innocently.
Well, innocently enough where he doesn't think he's going to destroy the 12 colonies, right? He just thinks he's selling to the competition. Like secrets so a company can make whatever the shit.
Right.
And then he becomes the head scientist on Galactica.
Yep.
And then the vice president.
And then the vice president.
And then the president.
And then the president.
And then a spiritual guru.
And then God. Yes.
And then he kind of fizzles out as a spiritual guru, doesn't he? He kind of stays that way till the end of the series.
Yeah, because his harem decides that they can do shit on their own. When he goes, where did he go?
Well, at the
he
very
left
end,
for something.
well, no, the very final episode when Adama puts this red strip down the center of the. So the final episode basically is the little girl Hera's been kidnapped, and they're like, "There's no way to save her. Fuck it, let's just keep moving on." But then Adama sees Hera's picture on the board of lost souls, basically, that they put up people's pictures on, and he decides that's not going to happen. We're not human if we don't save her. And so he draws a line down the middle of the Galactica, which is being decommissioned because she's about to, like, basically
break
apart.
Yeah.
And everyone on one side is going on this one-way suicide mission to save her, and everyone on the other side is going to continue on with the fleet. And at the very last second, as Baltar's getting on the last shuttle out, he goes like, "No," to the head harem girl, whose name will be, Sally.
Okay.
He says, "Sally, they're yours now. You appropriated me. I was never yours. You just sort of used me for your own ends. Bye." And then he hopped out.
Yep.
And then actually, like, proved... I wonder what happened to his harem on Earth when they found Earth at the end. Were they off in another continent somewhere?
I wonder. Well, and that was the one thing. You didn't know where everybody went. It
No.
kind of seemed like Ellen and Saul stayed together. Lee kind of went off and did his
He wanted to
own
go...
thing.
He literally was pulling... He should have been called Apollo. So he was doing the adventurous Apollo from Greek myth sort of thing.
He was Apollo.
Oh, Lee was Apollo.
was Apollo.
Oh, so he
Yeah.
pulled the actual
Yeah,
Apollo. Oh, I'm an idiot. I told you I'm very sleepy, and this room is very warm. And now I'm smoking.
We're not
a
allowed to
cigarette.
open the windows because it's too loud outside.
Hey, no, it's man. I'm telling you, that's gonna mess up all the audio. We had a dog wandering around earlier. That didn't help things.
He's a loud breather.
He's a very loud breather. So Apollo went off in Apollo. Zeus went and Zeused Adama.
Yeah.
Galen went off and formed the grumpy, moody, murderous Scotsman and Irishman, the Norseman.
I felt so sorry for Galen. He got fucked that entire show. The entire show.
He was the
First-
Chief O'Brien of Battlestar Galactica, and some of you will get that reference.
First, his lovely boomer decides to be a Cylon and gets shot, so he loses her. And then he shacks up with one of his little underlings.
Who he hates. He just, because it's
yeah.
on New Caprica, and he even has that whole speech where he's like, "I hated her smell, I hated her taste."
After she's dead.
After she's dead,
Right?
it's like, but you just get stuck with who you're stuck with in this situation. There's only like 30,000 of us.
And then he comes out as a Cylon.
Yeah.
And then
Turns out his
Adama
kid's
lets
not
him,
his kid.
Well, Adama lets him work on the ship,
Mm-hmm.
but treats him like a second-class citizen. And then he finds out that his kid is not actually his
Hot
kid.
dog's kid.
Fucking hot dog.
I love
Are you
that
kidding
moment.
me?
I love that moment where he's just like, "Fuck it, it's your kid now. Bye." like no.
You have to stay here until I sober up.
Yeah.
And then what else happened to the poor guy? He found out who killed his wife
That,
and murdered her.
Yeah. Kicked her out the airlock.
Who, in his previous Cylon life, he was going to marry the brown chick.
Oh, that was his girl from
Right.
the original world, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So that,
And
I guess,
then-
explains her subconscious hatred of the girl he was with,
Maybe,
I guess.
yeah.
Of Callie.
Yeah. But poor Galen, he's been through so much fucking shit.
Went through the shit. Ronald D. Moore likes to shit all over the Irishman.
Poor guy.
In Deep Space Nine, there's an Irish character called Miles O'Brien, and basically every episode with him is horrendous.
Oh.
Like, he's put into prison for 50 years, but it's actually 10 minutes in his mind, so he comes back all broken and fucked up. Or his daughter gets thrown through a time warp and comes back as an adult, and he has to watch her die. It's like, every episode was just, how could we fuck over O'Brien? And I like that they kind of took that, and was like, now how do we fuck over Chief? He became the O'Brien of Battlestar.
So O'Brien was the guy who ran the teleporter machine?
Yeah, he was the guy who ran... Oh, this is
no, that's Scotty.
Nerdy now.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Well, now it got a lot less nerdy now. But he was the guy who ran the transporter in Star Trek The Next Generation, and then they moved him over.
And he had the curly hair, right?
He had the curly hair.
Okay, I remember that guy.
And he hung out with Dr. Bashir, the Indian dude.
Oh, okay.
They were the weird bromance of Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Which I imagine by 300, 400 years in the future, everyone's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for here? Androgynous? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they probably hooked up once or twice when Keiko was off the station. Oh, my wife's pregnant again. I need a good physical doctor. But, yeah. And then Boomers. There was a strip club in Toronto we used to call the Boomers. It was really gross because you ordered ladies off a menu. It was disgusting.
Off a menu?
It was a place. This should probably not be on the podcast, but there was a place in Toronto. I don't remember the name of it, where it was busted for sex trafficking, and they actually found women chained to beds.
Oh, fuck off!
And they reopened it like a few. So it's Chinese mafia.
Oh.
Who runs it. Like, it's not confirmed or anything, but it really feels like that.
Okay.
And then it's a menu of women that you go in and order from. It's really horrifying.
In Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah.
Dear Lord.
If you're listening to this, Doug, maybe you might want to focus on shit that matters instead of just screaming at people. But let's just quickly go through season 1, 2, 3, and 4. So season 1, basically the setup. They're on the run. It's still almost like a weekly series at that point in season 1. Not a lot of overarching episodes. Really? Is there? I mean, you watched it a lot more recently.
Yeah, you're right. It was standalone kind of episodes.
It was standalone, but people were in their own. Like, there was Boomer and the dude were on Earth, and then at one point Starbuck gets stuck on Earth.
Oh, that was way, way after.
That was
season 1. Season 1 was they're running from the Cylons. Dude is lost on Earth,
Which
right?
dude?
He gave up his, who turned out to be Athena's husband.
Okay. Yeah, the guy that gets shot in the leg and wants to teach Hera how to hunt.
Yeah.
At the end.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name. We'll call him Handsome Jim.
Handsome Jim, the really, really tall Raptor pilot.
Yeah. But I thought, didn't they get saved? Because
they did, but I think
Rosalind,
that was season 3.
No, when Rosalind sent Starbuck to find the spear.
For the arrow?
That was season 1.
That wasn't season 1.
Because
I feel like that was at least season 2.
Season 3 is when the only plot line in the whole series that goes absolutely nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's the shoplifter from Breaking Bad. The plot line from Breaking Bad that goes nowhere is when Gata and Starbuck and a few other people are off on a ship looking for something. That's where Gata gets his leg shot off.
That was when Starbuck thought she found Earth.
Earth, yeah.
So when she came back from the dead.
That was a whole giving them something to do thing, because they went off and they came back, nothing came of it, and then they found Earth from the ship she came back in. So she never had to leave in the first place. That was like season
3, because the final 5 had already come out, right?
So I'm so sure that season 1 is when she gets sent to find the spear, but it was the second half. Remember, each season was split
maybe
into
it was.
2.
Okay.
And then that's when, because she goes to find the spear, and that's when she runs into Boomer and Handsome Jim. And
Athena and Handsome Jim.
Athena and Handsome Jim, and then they all leave together.
Yeah.
And then season 2...
So season 1, Boomer was shot, though.
Boomer shoots Adama at the end of season 1.
Okay.
That's how season 1 ends. And yeah, she got shot because her face is all messed up.
She tried to commit suicide.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all very blurry. Which probably is for a podcast is... Hey guys, I watched this a while ago. Fuck you. Sorry. And then, because season 3 is when they really started to come into focus. And then, and I guess we never really talked about the fact that season 4, the first half of season 4 ends with them finding Earth, but it's this irradiated wasteland.
Yeah, actually I really like that.
And then a writer's strike happened, and there was real talk that the show wasn't going to be able to come back. that people's contracts and schedules were going to run out, and they had other things, other commitments, and there was so much time, more time than was expected to be between these 2 seasons.
But how much of a bitch was that?
Can you imagine if that had been the final episode?
What, 4.5 seasons or 3.5 seasons already?
Yeah.
And they finally get to Earth, and everybody's about to take a big sigh of relief, and it's just nothing. It's just
wasted.
like crumpled up little bits of metal, and
it's just, and the Geiger counter going off and everything.
Yeah.
And then
that's when Starbuck found her dead self.
Was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and that's,
on that Earth.
Yeah, the one that exploded.
Yeah.
And yeah, just imagine if that was the final episode. That's where Battlestar ended. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have known who the final 5 were. It would have just been this messed up. And I guess kind of wrapping up. That's the whole series.
Not a very good synopsis.
Not a very good synopsis.
No.
Just read
I would get the Coles notes.
Just read it on Wikipedia. It's all there. I just found out how the actual timeline breaks down from Cobalt to the series, so it's all there, guys. And then I think the last point I want to make, really, if we're wrapping things up, is I love the use of there must be some kind of way out of here as the song through the series. The Cylons kept hearing it, and then Starbuck. I remember the episode where Starbuck figured it out on the piano was such a holy fuck moment.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's playing the Cylon song.
Yeah.
What is she? She's an angel? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was great. Alright, guys, I think that about wraps it up for this week. Just a little shallow dive into Battlestar Galactica. Me and DC will be back next week with something or other. See if anything's coming out that you guys would be interested in, or maybe another retrospective or something. In the meantime, make sure to check us out at spaceactionheroes.com. There you can find everything. Links to everything we do is off that site, and check it out. We'll see you next week. Say goodbye, Sam.
Bye, Sam.